The Last Samurai, 2003. 20 Weird Facts You Didn't Know. It wasn't just a historical epic, it was a collision of cultures, egos, and raw survival instinct. The Last Samurai arrived in 2003 draped in armor and cherry blossoms, promising a sweeping tale of honor and transformation. But beneath its polished veneer lay a production as dangerous and unpredictable as the battlefield it portrayed. Tom Cruise, stepping into the boots of a disillusioned American soldier, would find himself in the crosshairs of real horses, real blades, and a relentless authenticity that nearly killed him more than once. Filming stretched from the misty hills of Japan to the rugged landscapes of New Zealand, where every costume, prop, and set piece carried the weight of history, and sometimes the discomfort of 20 extra pounds. The actors weren't merely performing, they were enduring, from months of sword drills and bruising stunt work to navigating the cultural and political sensitivities of retelling a fractured chapter of Japanese history. What emerged on screen was a film that looked effortless, but was forged in sweat, near misses, and decisions that blurred the line between fact and fiction. These are 20 weird facts you didn't know about The Last Samurai, a journey into the moments, mishaps, and mysteries that shaped its legend. Fact number 1. 8 months of samurai discipline. Before cameras rolled, Tom Cruise disappeared into a world of relentless discipline. For 8 straight months, he trained in kenjutsu, the art of the Japanese sword, and in advanced horseback, riding under the guidance of former samurai stuntmen. Days began before dawn with hours of sword drills, followed by mounted combat exercises that tested balance, reflex, and nerve. There were no half measures. Every movement had to look effortless yet lethal. The grueling routine transformed his posture, gait, and even the way he breathed on camera. This wasn't method acting for vanity, it was survival. Many of the fight sequences would later be filmed in real time, with minimal cuts, leaving no room to fake stamina or skill. Cruise often joked half-seriously that by the time filming began, he could probably rob a feudal village and get away with it. What the audience saw on screen as graceful swordplay was, in reality, months of bloodied knuckles, aching joints, and a deep respect for the samurai ethos. It was this foundation that allowed the battles to feel authentic and sometimes dangerously real. Fact number 2. The horse that almost ended it all. One autumn afternoon on set, a single misstep nearly ended the production and Tom Cruise's life. During a high-speed cavalry charge, a mechanical horse malfunctioned, jolting Cruise off balance. Behind him, co-star Hiroyuki Sanada rode a massive stunt horse at full gallop, unable to stop in time. In the split second that followed, the animal's hoof came within inches of crushing Cruise's skull. Crew members froze, certain they'd just witnessed disaster. Instead, Sanada's instinct saved the day. He shifted his weight and guided the horse's stride so the hoof landed beside Cruise's head. Later, Sanada admitted the maneuver was pure luck. The moment was captured by multiple cameras, but no footage was ever released, partly out of respect, partly to avoid the scene overshadowing the film. For Cruise, it was a stark reminder. No matter how controlled a set seems, nature and machinery have their own scripts. Fact number 3. No CGI in the heat of battle. While Hollywood often leans on computer-generated chaos, The Last Samurai took a different path. Director Edward Zwick insisted that the core battle sequences be performed with practical stunts, real pyrotechnics, and hundreds of extras trained to move like Meiji-era soldiers. The dust, the sparks, the sweat all captured in camera. This decision meant that every stuntman was outfitted with armor and weaponry, weighing up to 25 kilograms, enduring hours under scorching lights and real explosions. The sword clashes you see aren't digital effects but metal striking metal-dulled blades, but still capable of inflicting harm. Horses charged through genuine fire lines, guided by expert handlers just out of frame. The absence of CGI gave the battles a tactile brutality, where you can almost feel the weight of every fall and the heat from every blast. It also meant the cast walked away with bruises, burns, and stories of narrowly avoided injuries. What looks like cinematic spectacle was, in reality, a carefully orchestrated war zone. Fact number 4. Ken Watanabe, wasn't the first choice. Today, it's impossible to imagine anyone but Ken Watanabe as Katsumoto, the stoic leader whose quiet gravitas anchors the film. But early drafts had the role earmarked for another Japanese actor, one with a more overtly menacing screen presence. When scheduling conflicts derailed that casting, Zwick turned to Watanabe, then known mostly in Japan for television work. The choice reshaped the film's emotional tone. Watanabe brought a balance of strength and vulnerability, infusing Katsumoto with layers of honor, melancholy, and wit. His approach also bridged cultural gaps on set, as he frequently mediated between the Japanese stunt team and the American crew to preserve authenticity in both language and ritual. During shooting, his ability to shift from commanding warlord to reflective poet deepened the audience's investment in the samurai cause. The gamble paid off. Watanabe's performance earned him an Academy Award nomination and international acclaim, transforming him into a global star almost overnight. Fact number 5. Bending history for drama. Though inspired by real events, The Last Samurai plays fast and loose with history. The film draws from the story of Jules Brunet, a French military officer who aided samurai rebels during the Boshin War, yet relocates the action to the Satsuma Rebellion of 1877. The protagonist's American nationality, his personal redemption arc, and many cultural details are pure invention. This creative license wasn't accidental. It was a deliberate move to make the story more accessible to Western audiences while retaining Japanese authenticity in aesthetics. Historians criticize the compression of decades into a single narrative, but Zwick argued that the film was never meant as a documentary. Instead, it was a parable about honor and change, set against a historical backdrop rich enough to support its themes. Ironically, some viewers in Japan found the portrayal of the samurai surprisingly sympathetic, given the political complexities of the era. In the end, bending the truth helped The Last Samurai find its voice, even if that voice spoke in a dialect history never quite recorded. Fact number 6. Armor that weighed a soldier down. The samurai armor worn on set was no lightweight costume. Crafted from steel plates, leather bindings, and intricate silk cords, each suit weighed more than 20 kilograms. For the battle sequences, the actors had to sprint, roll, and fight in full gear under scorching lights or in biting winter winds. Sweat would soak through the underclothing, adding even more weight, and the metal's edges often left bruises on shoulders and hips. Tom Cruise and Ken Watanabe both admitted that removing the armor at the end of a shooting day felt like shedding a second body. Yet the production refused to substitute lighter, foam-based props for close-up shots. The heaviness was intentional. It changed the actors' movements, forcing them into the grounded, deliberate pace of real samurai warriors. The result was a physical authenticity that translated directly onto screen, even if it meant ice baths and painkillers became part of the daily routine. Fact number 7. Speaking the language of honor. Tom Cruise didn't just train his body, he trained his tongue. Determined to deliver his Japanese lines with authenticity, he hired a private language coach months before filming began. The focus wasn't only on pronunciation but on the subtleties of formal and informal speech, crucial in a culture where a misplaced honorific can change the meaning entirely. One particularly challenging scene required Cruise to address Katsumoto with both humility and resolve, using archaic phrasing unfamiliar even to some native speakers. His dedication impressed the Japanese crew, who noted that many Hollywood productions wouldn't go to such lengths for linguistic accuracy. While Cruise's fluency was limited to the film's script, his ability to deliver lines naturally under emotional strain added another layer of believability to his character's transformation. Fact number 8. Japan meets New Zealand. While much of The Last Samurai seems steeped in Japan's landscapes, a significant portion was actually filmed in New Zealand. The rolling hills of Taranaki served as a convincing stand-in for 19th-century rural Japan, with Mount Taranaki doubling as the iconic Mount Fuji. The location offered vast, untouched vistas perfect for sweeping battle scenes, without the logistical restrictions of filming in Japan's more developed areas. Local farmers were enlisted as extras, and entire villages were constructed from scratch to replicate Meiji-era architecture. The blend of Japanese and New Zealand footage was so seamless that many viewers never realized they were looking at two different countries. This careful fusion of geography allowed the production to control every visual detail while honoring the aesthetic traditions of Japanese cinema. Fact number 9. Waiting for real rain. In an age where rain can be conjured at the push of a special effects button, Edward Zwick took the opposite approach. For a key emotional scene between Cruz and Watanabe, he insisted on waiting for an actual rainstorm. The crew monitored weather reports obsessively, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. When the clouds finally broke, they shot for hours in freezing conditions, the downpour soaking through costumes and chilling the actors to the bone. The water beaded and streamed in a way no artificial rain could replicate, adding a visceral texture to the moment. Watanabe later recalled that the physical discomfort sharpened the emotional weight of the scene. The shivers weren't entirely from the cold. The gamble paid off. The rain became as much a character in that sequence as the actors themselves. Fact number 10. Real blades. Dulled, but deadly. The film's sword fights were executed with real steel blades, their edges carefully dulled for safety. Even so, a mistimed swing could break bone or split skin. Stunt coordinators drilled the cast relentlessly, emphasizing precision over speed to reduce risk. During one rehearsal, a blade glanced off Cruz's forearm, leaving a deep bruise and a reminder that dulled steel is still unforgiving. The choice to use real swords, rather than aluminum or plastic stand-ins, gave each clash a satisfying weight and sound impossible to fake. The metallic ring, the vibration through the handle, and the subtle resistance when blades met, all of it translated into a level of realism that elevated the combat scenes beyond choreography. For the actors, it also reinforced a truth the samurai would have known well. In battle, even practice can draw blood. Fact 11. Ken Watanabe's real injury. In one intense rehearsal for a duel, Ken Watanabe's opponent misjudged the distance and struck with more force than planned. The dulled blade caught Watanabe on the forearm, slicing through the padded sleeve and leaving a gash deep enough to require stitches. Instead of halting production, Watanabe returned to set the next day, concealing the wound under fresh bandages and armor. The incident wasn't just a testament to his resilience, it subtly changed his performance. In several close-ups, you can see him favoring the injured arm, an authenticity no acting could replicate. Crew members later admitted they feared the injury might delay filming, but Watanabe's determination kept the schedule intact, and the scene where it happened made it into the final cut, albeit from a safer camera angle. Fact number 12. Extras with real military backgrounds. To capture the disciplined movements of Meiji-era soldiers, the production recruited dozens of Japanese extras with actual military or martial arts training. Many were active or former members of the self-defense forces, bringing precise formations, synchronized drills, and an understanding of battlefield discipline. This decision elevated the realism of crowd scenes, where hundreds of men moved as a single organism. The extras were so well trained that in some takes, their unprompted reactions, a sudden pivot to shield, a disciplined kneel in formation, ended up enhancing the choreography. Director Edward Zwick often remarked that these men weren't acting. They were embodying an instinct drilled into them over years, and it gave the film's large-scale battles an authenticity that CGI armies could never match. Fact number 13. Hans Zimmer's layered score. The emotional heartbeat of The Last Samurai came from Hans Zimmer's score, a blend of sweeping orchestral arrangements and traditional Japanese instruments like the shakuhachi and taiko drums. Zimmer worked closely with Japanese musicians to ensure authenticity, even bringing some to Los Angeles for recording sessions. The soundtrack's complexity lay in its subtle layering. Traditional melodies weaved into Western harmonies, mirroring the film's cultural fusion. For the final battle sequence, Zimmer built tension with a slow taiko rhythm that gradually accelerated, matching the cavalry's charge. Many viewers may not consciously notice these details, but the music shapes the film's emotional pacing, swelling at moments of honor and pulling back into silence during scenes of loss. The score not only earned critical acclaim, but also became a staple in trailers and inspirational montages for years after. Fact number 14. Tom Cruise's stunt work. While most leading actors rely heavily on stunt doubles, Tom Cruise performed roughly 90% of his own stunts in The Last Samurai. This included sword fights, horseback charges, and dangerous battlefield maneuvers. Cruise's insistence came from his belief that audiences can sense when an actor isn't truly in the moment. It also meant weeks of additional training and countless safety briefings. In one scene, Cruise leaps onto a moving horse bareback, a maneuver typically reserved for professional stunt riders. The sequence took multiple takes, and each attempt carried the risk of serious injury. Stunt coordinator Nick Powell later admitted that, while Cruise's skill was impressive, his willingness to push boundaries kept the crew constantly holding their breath. The end result? Combat scenes that feel immediate and visceral because the fear and strain on Cruise's face are entirely real. Fact number 15. Political controversy in Japan. Upon its release, The Last Samurai sparked debate in Japan. Some critics praised its respectful portrayal of samurai culture, while others accused it of romanticizing a class that, in reality, upheld rigid social hierarchies and resisted modernization. The film's sympathetic view of the rebellion contrasted sharply with historical narratives taught in Japanese schools, leading to discussions in newspapers and on talk shows. There was also discomfort with a Western protagonist becoming the central figure in a Japanese story, a narrative choice some saw as perpetuating the white savior trope. Director Edward Zwick defended his approach, stating that the story was about mutual transformation, not one culture saving another. Despite the controversy, the film performed well in Japan, where audiences embraced its artistry even as they debated its historical framing. In a way, the discussion itself mirrored the film's themes, a clash between tradition and change. Fact number 16. The real inspiration. Jules Brunet. Beneath the fictional arc of Captain Nathan Algren lies the shadow of a real man, Jules Brunet, a French military advisor who fought alongside samurai during the Boshin War. Brunet's story, while less romanticized, carries striking parallels. A foreign soldier drawn into Japan's internal conflict, earning the trust of warriors fighting against imperial forces. The filmmakers borrowed this framework but transplanted it into the later Satsuma Rebellion, giving the narrative a more dramatic end. In reality, Brunet survived and returned to France. In The Last Samurai, Algren's fate is left deliberately ambiguous. This shift allowed the film to weave personal redemption into the broader tapestry of political upheaval, even if it meant blurring the historical record. For many historians, the connection to Brunet is an open secret one the film never openly admits, but subtly nods to through details like Algren's military tactics and his outsider's perspective on Japanese honor. Fact number 17. 3 hours in the makeup chair. For every battle sequence, the principal actors endured up to 3 hours of makeup each day. This included weathering effects like dirt, sweat, and blood, as well as intricate facial hair grooming to match Meiji-era styles. The samurai characters in particular required detailed knotting of hairpieces, secured with hidden pins and wax to survive hours of combat choreography. Makeup artists also applied subtle bruising and minor cuts to reflect the continuity of injuries from previous scenes, forcing them to track each character's physical state across the entire shoot. The process was so time-consuming that actors often arrived on set before sunrise, only to wait in costume for hours while lighting setups were adjusted. Yet the payoff was visual cohesion, the kind where even a fleeting close-up feels grounded in the grit and hardship of the story. Fact number 18. The scene almost lost to the cutting room floor. One of the film's most emotionally charged moments, the quiet exchange between Algren and Katsumoto before the final battle, almost never made it to theaters. During the editing process, studio executives argued that the scene slowed the pacing too much before the climax. Director Edward Zwick fought to keep it, insisting that without it, the audience would lose the emotional stakes of the fight to come. Tom Cruise reportedly backed Zwick, offering to re-record lines or reshoot if necessary to make the moment work. Ultimately, the scene stayed untouched and became one of the most quoted passages in the film. It's a reminder that some of the most enduring elements of a movie can hinge on stubborn conviction in the editing room. Fact number 19. 10 takes to get the ending right. The film's closing moments, Algren returning to the village, greeted by Taka, were deceptively complex to shoot. Zwick wanted the perfect balance of emotional release and restraint, avoiding melodrama while still offering closure. This meant fine-tuning everything: the angle of the camera, the timing of Algren's approach, even the way the wind caught the falling cherry blossoms. The sequence was filmed 10 times over 2 days, each take bringing subtle variations in performance and atmosphere. Crew members recalled that Zwick would call "cut," then quietly confer with Cruz and Koyuki, refining micro-expressions and gestures. The final take used in the film strikes a delicate chord, one that feels inevitable, as though it could never have been done any other way. In truth, it was the product of obsessive iteration. Fact number 20. A 4-hour first cut. When the first rough cut of The Last Samurai was assembled, it ran just over 4 hours. This version delved deeper into political subplots, the training of conscripts, and the inner workings of the Meiji government. There were also extended scenes of Algren's integration into samurai life, including moments of humor and domestic quiet that softened the film's darker beats. Test audiences responded positively to the richness, but flagged the pacing as too slow. Reluctantly, Zwick trimmed nearly 90 minutes, excising entire characters and storylines. Some of these deleted scenes still circulate among collectors and on fan forums, adding fuel to speculation about a possible director's cut. While the shorter theatrical version earned critical acclaim, those who've glimpsed the longer edit insist it offers an even more profound exploration of loyalty, honor, and change. Bonus fact: the unscripted cherry blossom moment. It wasn't planned, and it almost didn't happen. Late in the shoot, the crew discovered that the cherry trees near the set had reached peak bloom, a fleeting spectacle that would last only a few days. Edward Zwick halted the day's scheduled scenes and quietly reshuffled the call sheet. With no rehearsals, Tom Cruise and Ken Watanabe were brought to a small clearing where petals drifted through the air in the late afternoon light. Zwick simply told them to be still and let the moment breathe. The footage shows Algren and Katsumoto standing together, saying little, the silence filled by the whisper of wind through blossoms. On paper, it was nothing. On film, it became one of the most haunting images in The Last Samurai, a pause before the inevitable clash, a meditation on beauty in the shadow of death. Crew members recall that the atmosphere on set shifted during those minutes, as if everyone knew they were capturing something that couldn't be replicated. The scene wasn't in the script, wasn't part of the budget, and didn't require elaborate staging. It was nature, timing, and instinct, aligning, a reminder that sometimes the most enduring moments in cinema happen when you stop trying to control them.